Welcome to our deep dive today.
Okay.
It's all about unconditional love.
All right.
And you brought us these writings by Harold W. Becker, the founder of the Love Foundation.
Interesting guy.
Yeah, and we have excerpts from 7 different pieces that he wrote.
Okay.
Between 2005 and 2007.
Wow.
Pretty turbulent time, I think, in the world.
Sure.
And, it's almost like you can feel that tension in his writing, but also this incredible hopefulness.
Oh, absolutely. I think what's fascinating here is how Becker uses this backdrop of kind of this turbulent world to make a point, unconditional love. It's not just this fluffy, feel-good concept.
Yeah.
It's a powerful response to fear and uncertainty.
Right.
It's a way to reclaim our agency in a world that often feels very chaotic and out of control.
Well, in his 2005 letter, Dear Friends, he actually describes a world gripped by fear, tension, negativity. Oh. It's almost like he's issuing a challenge.
Yeah.
He says, it only takes one to simply realize that love is more powerful than fear, and the game is done.
I love that. That's Becker in a nutshell. Direct, bold, and deeply convinced of love's power.
Yeah.
And what's striking is he doesn't just leave it at that.
Right.
He offers a new way to think about unconditional love.
Okay.
Which he lays out in his 2006 letter called Unconditional Love.
So he calls it an unlimited way of being, which is a pretty intriguing way to put it.
Yeah.
It seems like he's moving beyond the simple idea of doing nice things for people and getting into something much deeper.
Exactly. He's suggesting that unconditional love isn't about what you do, but who you are at your core.
Okay.
It's an internal state of being,
right,
not a set of external actions.
So it's more about cultivating a certain way of seeing the world and relating to others.
Precisely. Yeah. It's about making a conscious choice to approach life from a place of love.
Acceptance and forgiveness.
Okay.
Even when it's difficult.
Now I can already imagine some people rolling their eyes at this.
Right.
Oh, great.
Another self-help guru.
Yeah, another self-help guru telling us to just love everything.
Right.
But Becker isn't naive.
No.
He knows that choosing love,
right,
especially in the face of negativity or hardship,
absolutely,
is a radical act.
Absolutely. And that's why he emphasizes self-acceptance as the foundation for loving others unconditionally.
Yeah.
In fact, he says, such a sense of profound love comes when we first forgive and accept ourselves for all our limiting beliefs, mistakes, judgments, and misunderstandings, and apply the unconditional to us personally.
This is where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's saying that until we embrace our own imperfections, we can't truly offer love without strings attached to others.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed that in your own life?
Oh, absolutely.
Those times when you're feeling insecure?
Yeah. Or judgmental. It's harder to be genuinely loving and accepting of others.
Yeah.
It's such a crucial insight, and one that we often overlook.
Yeah.
We tend to think of love as something we give to others.
Right.
But Becker suggests that it starts with how we relate to ourselves.
Okay.
It's about recognizing our own worth and value, flaws and all.
Okay.
He writes, we recognize our self-worth, value our talents, and allow ourselves to be who we are rather than what we think others wish us to be.
That makes me think of those times when we try to fit in, to please others, to mold ourselves into some image of what we think is acceptable.
Yes.
And in that process, we lose touch with our true selves.
Right.
With our authentic way of being.
And Becker argues that this disconnect from our true selves actually hinders our ability to love others unconditionally.
Yeah.
Because if we can't accept ourselves, how can we truly accept others?
So self-love, in Becker's view, isn't just some feel-good indulgence.
Right.
It's the very foundation for building a more loving and accepting world.
Exactly. And it's from this foundation of self-acceptance that Becker believes we can start to shift our perspective, which he argues is crucial for embodying unconditional love.
Okay.
He talks about this in his 2007 letter, Loving Unconditionally.
Okay, let's talk about this idea of shifting our perspective.
Okay.
What exactly does Becker mean by that? Did you talk about positive thinking?
Yeah.
Looking at the bright side, that sort of thing?
It's deeper than that.
Okay.
He's talking about consciously choosing to release those limiting beliefs that keep us trapped in negativity, fear, and judgment.
Okay.
He believes that these beliefs are the real barriers to experiencing true love, both for ourselves and for others.
So it's more about challenging those negative thought patterns that often run on autopilot in our minds.
Exactly.
For example, instead of automatically labeling someone as annoying or difficult, we pause and try to see them from a different perspective to understand where they're coming from.
Precisely. And this doesn't mean condoning bad behavior or ignoring red flags. It's about recognizing that everyone is on their own journey. That we all have our own struggles and insecurities.
I think this is where the idea of thinking with the heart comes into play.
Yes.
Which is another key concept in Becker's work.
Absolutely.
He seems to be suggesting that we need to move beyond the purely rational, logical mind and tap into something deeper, more intuitive.
Exactly. He believes that the mind, while incredibly powerful, can also trap us in cycles of overthinking, analysis, and judgment. He writes in his piece, Thinking with Our Heart. Our mind has been the thinker for millennia, and now it is time to move our energy into the heart and begin to think from this vantage point.
Wow.
He's not saying we should abandon reason altogether, but rather that we need to balance it with the wisdom of the heart.
It makes me think of that saying, follow your heart, but take your brain with you.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it, because thinking with the heart isn't about being naive or sentimental. It's about accessing a different kind of intelligence. One that's rooted in compassion, empathy, and understanding.
So it's about integrating both our head and our heart.
Yes.
Using both our logical mind and our emotional intelligence to navigate the world.
And Becker believes that this shift from a mind-centric approach to a heart-centered one is essential for creating a more loving and peaceful world.
But how do we actually make this shift? How do we go from thinking with our heads to thinking with our hearts?
That's a great question.
What does that even look like in everyday life?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll explore further in the next part of our deep dive. We'll look at specific examples from Becker's writings to see how this shift in perspective can play out in our relationships, our work, and our interactions with the world. So stay tuned, because we're about to get even deeper into the heart of unconditional love with Harold Becker.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Welcome back to our deep dive into Harold Becker's work on unconditional love.
You know, I think one of the reasons Becker's writing resonates so deeply is because he doesn't shy away from the messy realities of the world. He acknowledges the pain, the fear, the uncertainty that we all experience.
Exactly. And that's why he's so insistent that unconditional love isn't some kind of naive escapism. It's a direct response to the very real challenges we face as individuals and as a collective.
In fact, in his 2005 letter, Dear Friends, he talks about how fear is often used as a tool to manipulate and control us. He writes, behind the many evolving news headlines is a bigger movement, attempting to encourage a level of fear and hopelessness to permeate our consciousness into believing that we must be afraid of everything and everyone.
Wow.
It's almost like he's saying, wake up. Don't let fear dictate your reality.
And he goes on to suggest a powerful antidote to this fear-based mentality. He says, it only takes one to simply realize that love is more powerful than fear, and the game is done. I find that so inspiring. The idea that even in the face of overwhelming negativity, a single act of love can shift the balance.
It's like a little spark of light in the darkness. It reminds me of those random acts of kindness that we sometimes hear about. Someone paying for a stranger's coffee. Helping an elderly person cross the street. Leaving a note of encouragement for a coworker.
These seemingly small gestures can have a ripple effect, creating a sense of hope and connection that extends far beyond the initial act.
Exactly. And Becker argues that this ripple effect is multiplied. When we cultivate that unconditional love within ourselves first, he writes in Unconditional Love, such a sense of profound love comes when we first forgive and accept ourselves for all our limiting beliefs, mistakes, judgments, and misunderstandings, and apply the unconditional to us personally.
That's powerful.
This idea of self-forgiveness is so crucial.
It is.
But I think it's one of the hardest things for us to do.
It is.
We tend to hold ourselves to such high standards. And when we inevitably fall short, we beat ourselves up about it.
It's almost like we have this inner critic that's constantly judging and evaluating us, never quite letting us off the hook.
Yeah, and Becker suggests that until we silence that inner critic, until we extend that same unconditional love and acceptance to ourselves, it's difficult to truly embody it in our relationships with others.
Because we end up projecting our own insecurities and judgments onto others.
Yeah, we become hypercritical, quick to find fault.
Always looking for validation outside of ourselves.
Exactly, and Becker argues that true validation can only come from within.
Yes, he writes, we recognize our self-worth, value our talents, and allow ourselves to be who we are rather than what we think others wish us to be.
I love that idea.
It's about embracing our authentic selves, flaws and all, and recognizing that our imperfections are what make us unique and valuable.
That our imperfections are actually part of our beauty.
Yes.
Part of what makes us human.
Exactly.
It's a powerful shift in perspective.
It is, and it's from this place of self-acceptance that Becker believes.
Okay.
We can start to see the inherent good in others.
Yeah.
Even those who might seem difficult or challenging.
Okay.
He writes, in turn, we naturally understand those around us and extend our helping hand without condition, judgment, or expectation. We see ourselves in the reflection of another and know that everyone deserves to love and be loved without condition.
It reminds me of that quote by Ram Dass. We're all just walking each other home.
I love that.
It's about recognizing that we're all on this journey together.
Yes.
That we all stumble and fall and that we all need a little compassion along the way.
Absolutely. And Becker suggests that when we can see ourselves reflected in others, when we can recognize our shared humanity, it becomes much easier to extend that unconditional love and understanding.
But let's be honest, it's not always easy to put this into practice.
No, it's not.
We live in a world that often encourages competition, comparison, and judgment. So how do we actually cultivate this heart-centered perspective in the midst of all that noise?
Well, Becker offers some practical guidance in his 2007 letter, Loving Unconditionally. He suggests that we start by becoming aware of the limiting beliefs that are holding us back. He writes, think of the layers of limitation we have accepted over our lifetime alone, and in turn, how many people we have affected. We can end this cycle by choosing a new way through self-acceptance and unconditional love.
So it's about becoming conscious of those negative thought patterns that often run on autopilot in our minds.
Exactly. For example, I'm not good enough. I'll never be successful. People always let me down. These beliefs, if left unchecked, can create a self-fulfilling prophecy, limiting our potential and preventing us from experiencing true love and connection.
And Becker argues that we have the power to choose a different path.
Yes. He writes, never before have so many responded to their own inner urge to shift their awareness from a fear-based reality to one of unconditional love. We're in the midst of the most profound time ever known upon this planet, the moment where we return to unconditional love and become that which we always were, divine beings of exquisite creative potential.
Wow.
He's suggesting that a shift in consciousness is already happening on a global scale, and that we can be a part of it by choosing to align ourselves with love rather than fear.
It's like a collective awakening.
Yes.
A recognition that we're capable of so much more than we've been led to believe.
Exactly. And he challenges us to step into that potential to become the embodiment of unconditional love. He asks, what will you choose? Can you love yourself so deeply and so freely that you see yourself in the eyes of another? Will you remember in each moment of your day that humanity is filled with individuals wanting to know what and where unconditional love really resides, just like you once did?
It's a call to action, isn't it?
It is.
He's asking us to be the change we want to see in the world. To be living examples of unconditional love.
Yes.
But what does that actually look like in our daily lives? How do we go from these big ideas to concrete actions?
That's where the concept of thinking with the heart comes in.
Okay.
Becker dives into this idea in his writing, Thinking with Our Heart. Okay. He challenges us to shift from a purely mind-centric approach to a more heart-centered way of being.
I think a lot of people struggle with this idea.
Yeah.
It can sound a little woo-woo, a little too abstract.
Yeah.
What does it actually mean to think with our heart?
It's about moving beyond the duality of the mind.
Okay.
The tendency to see everything in terms of right and wrong, good and bad, us versus them.
Okay.
It's about accessing a deeper level of wisdom that's rooted in compassion, empathy, and understanding.
Okay.
He writes, Coming from unconditional love, we move out of the duality and polarity of right and wrong, good and bad, and begin to share that which we already are, powerful, wise, loving, and lovable beings of immense talent, creativity, compassion, and strength. Not to mention individuals filled with integrity, dignity, harmony, peace, and love.
So it's about recognizing our shared humanity.
Yes.
Recognizing that we all have the capacity for both darkness and light.
Exactly.
And choosing to focus on the light both within ourselves.
Yes.
And in others.
And Becker acknowledges that this shift in consciousness can be challenging.
Right.
It requires us to confront those deeply ingrained beliefs and patterns that keep us stuck in fear, judgment, and separation.
Yeah.
He writes, shifting from one reality to another always includes a phase where the old gives way to the new, and this often takes on the momentary appearance of chaos strife, the need to let go of the known, and a courageous willingness to allow the new to manifest.
It's like going through a metamorphosis.
Yes.
A shedding of the old skin.
Right.
To reveal something new and beautiful underneath.
Exactly.
But that process can be messy and uncomfortable.
It can.
It can feel like everything is falling apart before it comes back together in a new way.
And that's why Becker emphasizes the importance of trusting the process.
Okay.
Of having faith that even in the midst of chaos, there's a deeper intelligence at work.
Right.
He writes, underlying this or any transition is the loving intelligence that guides us between worlds and emanates from our own heart. No matter what the appearance, the heart knows the bigger picture, and from this grander perspective, we can make a profound difference.
It's about surrendering to something bigger than ourselves.
Yes.
That universal force of love that connects us all.
And he offers some practical advice for how to stay grounded in our hearts during times of uncertainty and change.
Okay.
He writes, make a choice today to suspend judgment and relax into what simply is.
Yeah.
Let go of what you mentally think is going on and center your awareness in the heart. Be present in the now and experience the only moment that is real and tangible. Breathe. Allow, be at peace, and you will know peace. Share your unconditional love, and the world will know love.
It's like a mini meditation practice.
Yes.
A way to reconnect with our inner compass, with that source of love and peace that resides within each of us.
Precisely. And Becker believes that this practice, this commitment to thinking with our hearts, is essential for creating a more just compassionate and harmonious world.
But how does this all tie together with his big picture vision of humanity evolving towards a more harmonious way of being?
Right.
That's something I'm really curious to explore.
That's a great question, and it's something we'll dive into in our next segment.
Okay.
We'll explore Becker's final writing, The Big Picture of Unconditional Love, where he lays out his vision for humanity's future and the role that unconditional love plays in that transformation.
Okay.
So stay with us.
All right.
As we continue to unpack the wisdom of Harold Becker and his inspiring perspective on unconditional love.
So we've talked about self-love and thinking with our heart. But what does a world transformed by unconditional love actually look like?
Yeah. Becker gives us a pretty detailed roadmap, in his final piece.
Okay.
The Big Picture of Unconditional Love. And he starts by reminding us that change is a fundamental part of life.
Right.
He writes, our world is always changing, and even the most seemingly static physical forms eventually dissolve to be reborn in a new form another day.
So relax. Change is inevitable.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that Becker connects this idea of change to our own inner evolution.
Okay.
He suggests that the rapid transformations we've seen in the world, particularly in the last century. So what is really driving this seemingly exponential shift in experiences in such a brief period of time? Could the big picture be that we are really opening our heart to allow a profound new way to experience life?
So he's not just talking about external changes, technology, social norms, that sort of thing.
He's talking about a fundamental shift in how we perceive and relate to the world, a move towards a more heart-centered way of being.
So essentially thinking with our hearts.
Precisely. And he suggests that this shift has profound implications for how we create our reality.
Okay.
He writes, looking around at the results of our human creative influence, it is clearer and more obvious each day that the thoughts and feelings we hold in our consciousness directly affect everything. The power we wield through our resulting actions is either life-affirming or destructive.
It's like that idea that we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
That our thoughts and actions have a ripple effect.
Right.
That extends far beyond ourselves.
Exactly. And Becker argues that we're at a critical juncture where we need to consciously choose love over fear in order to create a future that's sustainable and life-affirming. He writes, "It is becoming painfully obvious that a logical, technical, and mechanical world needs the wise balance of love, nurturing, and harmony. Otherwise, we will destroy ourselves. Our masculine and feminine qualities must come into greater balance for our very survival and evolution."
So it's not just about being nice.
No.
Or sentimental.
It's about recognizing that love is an essential ingredient for creating a world that works. A world where everyone can thrive.
And he sees unconditional love as the key to restoring that balance.
Exactly. To integrating those seemingly opposing forces. The masculine and the feminine, the logical and the intuitive, the head and the heart.
And Becker acknowledges that, as with any major transformations, there will be challenges.
Bumps in the road.
Moments of chaos and uncertainty.
He writes, like, with any change, there is a time of chaos as we move from one reality to another.
That makes me think of that quote, "You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs."
Oh, I like that.
Sometimes things have to fall apart
before
they can be rebuilt in a new and better way.
That's a great analogy. And Becker encourages us to embrace this process of dismantling and rebuilding, to have faith that even in the midst of the chaos, something beautiful is being birthed. He writes, "During this transformational time, we have to let go of things that no longer fit or vibrate with our new expression. We need to be flexible and open to new possibilities. We literally have to think outside the box, since we can no longer be contained by limiting perspectives and beliefs."
It's about being willing to let go of the old stories, the old ways of doing things, and step into the unknown with a sense of curiosity and courage.
And he reminds us that we're not alone in this journey. He writes, "We are taking the first steps to reveal a world based on diversity, equality, harmony, dignity, and respect." How? By each choice we make throughout the day, the world quickly adapts and reflects our individual and collective thoughts and feelings.
So we each have a role to play in creating this new world.
We each have an impact.
And that our individual choices have a collective impact.
It's not about waiting for some external force to come and save us. It's about recognizing that we have the power within ourselves to create the change we want to see in the world.
And he offers some guidance for how to navigate this process of personal and collective transformation. He writes, "When we accept ourselves without condition, forgive and release the many instances and emotional pains of the past, and choose to embrace each moment with full awareness, we return to our natural and true state of being. We build forms that are in harmony with our heart, not just our minds. We simplify our approach and allow inspiration to take us to new heights. Fear no longer has hold over us, and we walk in peace. Coming from love, we affect outcomes and potentials in a wholly different way. We become the example of a new way of living."
That's beautiful.
It's a call to action, to step into our authenticity, to let go of the past.
Embrace the present moment.
To embrace the present moment and to trust in the power of love to guide us towards a brighter future.
And he concludes with this beautiful message of hope and encouragement. He says, "Unconditional love is the big picture. Patience and trust is how we traverse this time period. Be patient with the process. When you simply accept you for you, it is easy to allow those around you to be who they are. Trust that you have the strength and courage to live life your way. Allow the love to flow from your heart and witness the changes you begin to experience. The world awaits your creative and loving input."
Wow.
Harold Becker's vision is both inspiring and challenging.
It is.
You know, it asks us to step out of our comfort zones, to confront our fears, and to embrace a way of being that is rooted in love, compassion, and interconnectedness.
It's a big ask.
This is a big ask.
But the potential rewards are immense.
Absolutely. And ultimately, his message is one of hope and empowerment. He reminds us that we are not powerless, that we each have the capacity to make a difference, and that by choosing love, we can collectively create a world that is more just compassionate and harmonious.
This has been an incredible deep dive into the world of Harold Becker and his perspective on unconditional love. If his vision resonates with you, if you're feeling inspired to bring more love and kindness into the world, start with yourself. Embrace your imperfections. Forgive yourself for your past mistakes, and make a conscious choice to approach each moment with an open heart. The world is waiting for your creative and loving input.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.